Okay, good. I guess it's still morning. Good morning, everyone. We are going to look at Autocrat to animate your documents. I use Autocrat quite a bit, and believe it or not, you guys have been using Autocrat all week. So this is how we do our certificates of participation for all of our classes. So that little tiny URL that we give you that takes you to the Google form, that Google form goes into a Google spreadsheet where Autocrat runs and populates a PDF that is emailed to you. So I have two examples that I'm going to show you today. This works with Google Docs and it now works with Google Slides. So I am going to show you an example of each of those. It could be something as simple as a certificate of participation. It could be something as simple as a form letter to inform parents of meeting times, dates, things like that. Or it could be something more in depth, like I created a MadLibs so kids can put in, their different forms of nouns, verbs, and so forth, and then it will automatically populate it in the preset document that I have. So let me get out of this screen and we are going to get started. Now, there are a couple steps to this. So when you think of Autocrat, you're like, oh, I don't have that app. Oh, there she is. So Autocrat is actually an add-on for Google Sheets. Okay, so it is actually a Google Sheets add-on. A lot of people think it's for forms or for docs. It goes with Google Sheets. So when you're looking at Google Sheets, so I'm going to kind of take you through this first. When you're looking at Google Sheets, so under add-ons, if you don't already have Autocrat, you're going to want to go to Get Add-ons. In your Get Add-ons screen, you can just search for Autocrat if it's not already populated, but you can see it's right here. It's this bright yellow and blue. So you'll want to make sure you get that installed. Okay, so I'll give you guys a second for that. So make sure, again, you have to be in a Google Sheet. So you can, even a blank one, so sheets.new. And then add-ons, get add-ons, and you're going to find Autocrat. Okay, so there's a couple things that we're going to do before we actually start running Autocrat. So you can see here, I kind of have, and I should have actually put the drive symbol here as well. So there's a few things that you need to do in the background before you actually start using the Autocrat feature. So one is My Drive. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to think about what you're going to create. Are you creating a form letter? Are you creating a document that you're going to send out to the kids? Are you creating some type of certificate, maybe in a Google Sheet? Where do you want these documents to go? So you're going to get a copy of all of these documents. So okay, so back into our drive. So you want to create a folder. So a folder is the best way to kind of organize everything. So how are things going to be organized? So you can see in here, I created a folder called MadLibs. So because we're going to do a MadLibs Word document or Google document, and the kids are going to fill in the funny words to make their funny stories. So I just went to new and folder to create my folder in Drive. It could be a folder within folder. It doesn't really matter. So I'll give you guys a second to get your folders created. If you're following along, if you're not following along, don't worry about creating. That's up to you. Okay, then the next thing you're going to want to do is if you are going to have this auto populate, you are going to create a Google form. Okay, so you can see here, I created just a simple Google form because we're doing MadLibs. So I have all my parts of speech on here. I want a place, an adjective, a noun, an adverb. So they don't know what the story is. They're not supposed to know what the story is. So, but you'll notice that when I label these, I have adjective 1, I have adverb 1 and adverb 2, noun 3 and 4. Notice I don't have a noun 1 because in this one I put place. So I wanted it to be a specific place instead of saying noun 1. So you're going to have to remember that when we're looking at this. So you'll see. Okay, so I have that created. Okay, so I just added a few things. And right now you don't have to create this stuff. You can follow along and then we can go back through. After I create my Google form, I'm going to move on to my documents. So, and sometimes it's easier when you have two screens like I do, because you can put one on one screen and one on the other. You might also want a split screen, because when you write your story, you're going to want to create your story and where you want your parts of speech to be. It is going to be listed here. Okay. So I have two options when I'm doing this. So notice I have here, I have noun 1, noun 2, noun 3, noun 4, noun 5. But remember in my Google form, I put place. So I can easily replace this and put in place. Okay. So any of the places where I want filled in, I have to put, I call them the alligator brackets. I don't know what the real name of them are called, but you put the angle brackets around them. So 2 on each side. So you can see every place that I want one of my parts of speech has those around it. So for example, if I was doing a form letter to send out to parents, maybe for parent teacher conferences and what time, they're signed up for, I could put, dear parents. So I'm making my indicators here, or my what they call tags. So parent name, and then I'm going to match it up to what is in my Google form. So maybe I'm going to match that up to your name, whatever it might be. So again, these are called your tags, and this is how you match things up when it comes to your Autocrat file. Okay, so next, I have this done. So I created my form. I created my form letter. Next, I want to get to my spreadsheet. Well, because I am using a form, I'm going to get to my spreadsheet from my form. Okay, so I'm going to go into my responses and I need to create the spreadsheet. So I'm going to click to create my spreadsheet. Your first time through, it's not created. It will collect your responses, but it won't go to the spreadsheet until you click on the little green sheet symbol. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to create the spreadsheet. It's going to be called Summer Vacation MadLibs, and I'm going to create that. So far I have nothing in here. There's no information from my form. It's just blank. So now I want to actually create my Autocrat to automate this. So when a form response comes in, it will automatically generate the story. So this is where I go to my Autocrat add-on. So under add-ons, I'm going to go to Autocrat. Before I actually launch Autocrat, I'm going to show you the help. Okay, so some of you aren't able to install the add-on right now. So once you are able to get the add-on, you can go into the help menu and say learn more. This is going to take you into the Autocrat part of the New Visions Cloud Lab. Okay. And you can always search Autocrat and it will take you cloudlab.newvisions.org. And then you'll see all the different add-ons that they have available. But this is going to take you through step by step on how to run your add-on. So it's talking about your tags, creating your document, setting up your Autocrat to run and mapping everything, which we're going to get through, and then how you want to get it out to the district or to the people, whether it's your students, whether it's parents. Here is the user's guide. It is fabulous. It walks you through step by step. When I've taught this before, I've printed it out for people, but I'm like, why am I printing this? It's right here. So you can click on it and get the newest version of it. And it's just it's from the Autocrat website. Okay, so let me go back, close this, and I'm actually going to launch Autocrat. So there are 9 steps. We're not going to do all 9. I don't think all 9 are important, but we're going to do basically 7 out of the 9. So when you first come in, no jobs are going to be set up. Okay. So you're going to have to set up your first merge job. You can actually run multiple Autocrats in the same spreadsheet. Okay. So I'm not going to get into that, but you can. So I'm going to start a new job. So step 1 is the simplest. It's naming it. So we're just going to name this what we want it. So if you do have multiple Autocrat jobs running, this is how you know which one is which. Okay, so this is just my summer MadLib. So I'm going to click on next. Notice the save button is always already there. We don't want to save yet. So it will kind of save. We're just going to keep going through next, because if you save, it actually closes out of this window. So we're going to hit next. Next is choosing your template. And when they're talking about that template, that's that form letter that you just set up. So we created this one. It's called Summer Vacation. So that's what I'm going to look for. You'll see here, it does say you can now pull in from Drive. So I have an example for that as well. So we can see how to pull things in, or I'm sorry, from slides. So I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to pull something in that I've already created. If you don't have anything created, you can create on the fly, but I typically create mine first before I get here. If you are rerunning the job, you will notice some of your recent items are going to be here. You can see my summer vacation is here because I already ran through this once to make sure it worked properly. You can see our online certificates are here. So any of you who have taken our online PD, we run Autocrat. So that template is available. So I'm going to go through the whole process. So I'm going to go to From My Drive, and I'm going to search for it. Now, typically, if you kind of go in the order that I just went through, my form letter or my document that I just created was one of my recent items. So it should be listed pretty much at the beginning. If not, you do have your search box to search for something specific. So here it is, because I just created it. So I'm going to click on it and hit select. And then you'll see here, it's going to put in what template you're using. And if you need to see it, you can just click on it and it's going to open it up. So I want to go on to step number 3. This is where you map things. Okay. So it's going to show me right here that 4 items are unmatched. Okay. So it is coming from my specific tab, my form responses. And it's saying, hey, I looked in the document and I found the word place. What do you want to map it to in your spreadsheet? So these are the tags that I put here. Okay. This column mapped to the column. These are generated by your Google form. Okay. So whatever was in your form are now your column headings here in Sheets. So I need to make sure they're matched up. So place, yep, I have place. And if you're doing this and you have super long questions in your Google form, it's going to map it to that super long question. Okay. So adjective 1, what do I want to map that to? Here are my options. So I wanted to bring this up because notice it mapped noun to noun two, but it didn't match up a adjective one to adjective one. Do you notice a difference in my column headings versus in my tags? So it's simple as a capital letter. So it is that picky when it is looking for these column headings. It has to be exact. So I didn't want it capital in my form letter. But when I am typing in a Google form, it automatically capitalizes the first letter. So it doesn't automatically match it up. So just be aware of that. It's not saying you did anything wrong. It's just saying, hey, these are different. One has a capital and one does not. Are they the same? So I can click on it and it now says these are mapped. So I'm just going to go through, same thing with these. And then everything else is mapped except for my noun 5, because I put it in my form letter as noun 5, but in my form, I put a person's name. So I need to make sure that here I put person's name. So it's going to take that and it's going to put it where noun 5 is in my form letter. Okay. Moving on, step number 4. How do you want these documents named? It is going to generate a document for every form that is submitted. Notice you can use tags in your file name. I highly, highly suggest this. So when we have our forms, our PD form that you guys are filling out for CEUs, we have the tags in there of your last name as well as your district. So we can quickly look, because and I'm just going to use Tammy as an example, there's Hershey's in other districts as well. So if I just see Hershey and whatever class it was, I'm not sure what district that's from. I would actually have to open up that certificate. But if I see Hershey Green and Autocrat, then I know that that's what she has taken. And I know that it's Tammy Hershey from Green. Okay. So highly suggest use tags in your file names. So how do I do that without, it's not in my form letter. I didn't put it in my form letter. It doesn't matter that it's not in my form letter. It has to be a column heading. So even if I wanted to, I could put in timestamp. Has to be identical, remember, including capital letters and spaces. And then that would pull anything from column A. But I want the information from column B. So my suggestion, because you don't know your spacing and so forth, I would copy it and then do your alligator brackets, paste, alligator brackets. Oops, and I'm doing periods, alligator brackets. Nope. There we go. Okay. How do you want, oh, so that's going to be the name of the student. So they put that in, and then I could put in the assignment name. We'll just put summer. And if I wanted to put period 1, I could put period 1. So, but that would very limit it, that you can only give this form to period 1. So try not to do something so specific that you can't use this form with multiple groups. How do you want the output? Okay, do you want it as a Google document? So then it's an actual doc file that you can go back in and modify if you need to, or do you want it to come through as a PDF? So I'm going to do this one as a doc file. Okay. We're going to leave this as is. So we're going to just leave this as our multiple output mode. And I'm going to go to next. Step number 5. This is where I have messed up many times. So I am going to make sure I stress this properly. Okay. This is where all of your documents are going to be placed. And notice by default, it puts it into my drive. So if you do not change the destination of where all of these files are going to be populated, your drive is going to get full very quickly and be very unorganized. So this is why I said the very first thing that you need to do is create a folder. Okay, so even if you just create a folder that's called Autocrat files, at least it's not populating all with all your other things. Okay, so you're going to choose a folder. So I'm going to choose it. Actually, before I do that, the first thing I want to do is get rid of my drive. So I'm going to remove my drive. Okay, so I'm going to click, if I hover over it, I have the little trash can. I'm going to remove it. Are you sure? Yes. I do not want them going into my drive because it's all, it'll be a mess. Now I'm going to choose the folder that I want it to go into. And notice it tells you all these documents are going to go into this folder. So I'm going to choose my MadLibs folder. And it's going to go into recent. So again, that's why I'm kind of doing things in this order so that things are just showing up right at the beginning as I'm working on stuff. So I'm going to click on my folder and hit select. And notice now it says MadLibs instead of my drive. If you need to go put this in multiple places, you can add folders. Maybe you're sending letters home for parent-teacher conferences and you also have a shared folder with the building principal. So you want a copy for yourself and you want to put a copy in for the principal to see. You can put it in multiple places. Next, step number 6 is one that we are not going to worry about. Step number 7, we are also not going to worry about, but I'm going to talk about. So step number 7 is where you can have specific conditions. So for example, if I add a condition here, I can say, okay, well, if the name area is empty, so I'm going to say null, then we're not going to do this. Okay, so we want to make sure it's only going to print things if it, oh, sorry, I guess I did that backwards. If it's not null, because if it's not empty, we want it to print. But if it is empty, then don't print a certificate for this or don't print a form letter for this. Okay, so this you don't really use that often and there's not many choices that you can actually break it down. It's either blank or not blank. Okay, but sometimes it is helpful. So I'm just going to remove that. So again, 6 and 7 are optional. 8, this is the important one. How are you getting these documents? Are you sharing them and emailing them, or are you just collecting them yourself? So if you have upper level kids, you might want to share them with them and send it via email to them. If you have littles, you might not want to. So you're going to keep it on no. They might not have email. Okay. So notice it's a share and send. It's not a share or send. So if I say yes, I am getting this shareable document, how I want it to share. Okay. So I can say view only. Anyone on the internet can edit or I can send it as a PDF. I can share it as a PDF. Okay, so even though I said that I wanted it as a Google Doc, I can share it with somebody as a PDF. So that's kind of a nice feature. Do you want collaborators to be able to reshare? Yes or no? And then if you are going to email it to them, notice that it will only go to Google Apps accounts. Okay. And of course, you would have to collect the email address. So in this case, I did not collect the email address. So I'm just going to say, nope, not sharing. Okay. So you're thinking, well, what's the point of it? It's still going to generate the documents and it's going to put it in that folder that I told it to in step number 5. So I'm going to click on next. Do we have a trigger? So in this case, yes, we do have a trigger. So every time the form runs, I want that document created. So I'm going to say run on the form trigger. So that's telling me that when the form runs, it's going to populate. You must enable your triggers. So this will automatically pop up, and they have to be enabled in order for this to work. And I'll show you where you can get to them if you miss the screen. So I'm going to say yes, and that will automatically update it for me. But again, I'll show you where to do that in just a minute. Run on time trigger, that would be a certain time length. So do I want this every day? Run it once a day and see who's submitted. I could do it every couple hours, whatever it might be. In this case, because it's going to come on the form trigger, I'm going to say, hey, don't worry about the time. So I'm on my last step. So now I'm going to save it. And at any point, maybe the bell rings and you can't finish, just save it in mid steps, and you can always go back through and modify the remaining steps. But I just wanted to go through all of them. So here it is. It created it based on step number 1, that name that I gave it, and it is ready to run. Okay, so you can see I can run it at any time. I can modify it by clicking on the pencil if I need to. I can preview it, which is just going to show me an overview of what is happening. Okay. And then I can delete it if I don't want it to run anymore. And you'll see that as I'm talking, it is automatically populating all kinds of extra columns in here, waiting for a form to be submitted. Triggers. If you missed that trigger, step number 9, right here, manage triggers. It will always be on your main Autocrat screen. So when you go on to add-ons, launch Autocrat, managing your triggers will be here. Okay, so you'll notice it automatically enabled my form trigger. Okay, so let's submit. Let's see how this works. So here are all my extra columns that it creates. Okay, and you don't have to worry about sizing them and making sure everything can fit in, because it's going to put links in here and they're going to be super long. Okay, so let's go into my form. Actually, I had this list here. Hold on. You guys are going to be able to do this too. And Dawn, I know you might be on your phone. You might not be able to do this, then that's fine. So I'm going to email this form to you guys so you guys can answer it. Oh, okay. Okay, so you guys should be able to, yep, I did. You guys should be able to go through and answer that. I'm going to go through and answer as well. I know the story, so I can't go through it because I know the story. I guess I can also do this. So if some of you don't have your email open, let me copy this link and I'll put it in the chat real quick. So this might be easier for you guys. Okay, so you can see we got our first response. So Tara's has populated, and you can see that it's automatically starting to create that document. Here comes Tom's. It's not yet created, but you'll see, give it a few seconds, and it's going to populate that document for me. Okay, I'm going to switch over to my drive. And so you guys can see it here as it is automatically getting those form submissions in my Google Sheets. It's automatically creating these. So here's Tara's. Oh, Tara sounds good because she's going on a trip to Hawaii. I'd love to go there. So you can see every place that I had those tags. Okay, the weather has been very large. I can't wait to see the hat and walk in the sun. Okay, I plan to scream along the beach and collect dog. Okay, my mom and dad will take me to a souvenir shop. I'll get a whale and a postcard to send to my friend Julia. Okay. So those tags are there. It's waiting for that information based on what you are collecting here. So because I had that form trigger, it takes moments as it populates. It comes in, it's taking a few seconds, and it's generating that document in my Google Drive for me. Because remember, I did not share these with the kids because maybe I'm working with littles and they don't have email. Okay. So I can also, when I come here, I don't have to go to my drive. I can click right here and go to each of these documents. So if I click on another one, if I click on Dawn, I can click on it. And again, here it is. So every place that I put those little tags, it's entering that information. Okay. Now, notice when I created this, I did some formatting to it. So I made them bold. I put the underlines so that they would know that's where the word was being inserted. Do you have to do that? No. But any type of formatting, if I make the text red, whatever it might be, it is going to go through and add that formatting to your response. Okay. Any questions that way? So this is going from a form into a spreadsheet, creating from my document. Okay, so that's 3 different things that I have to worry about. Well, 4 if you want to include Drive. Make sure you have that Drive folder. But you can see if I did not create that Drive folder, can you imagine if all of these were in my Drive? So it just populate based on the timestamp when they submit, and it would fill into my Drive. So that's why I find this part very important. Make sure you get that folder created in Drive. Okay. I'm going to pause there for a second, see if there's any questions, but we're going to go through this again. Okay. If you're typing, I'll get back to it, but if not, I'm going to move on. So here is a Google Slides. So they just released this, I don't know, maybe half a year ago or so, that you can pull in from a Google Slide versus having to be an actual document. So if you noticed when we created our online certificate, actually even your in-person certificates, those go to a Google document. That's because back in the day when we created our Autocrat, you couldn't link it to a Google slide. Well, now you can. Can we change it? Yes, we can, but it's already set, it's running. We're just leaving it as is. But this is a way, especially year end, and you're thinking, oh, year end, we just had our year end and I could have easily did this. Yes, you could have next year or at the beginning of the year. So when you are in your Google Slides, you just create as you need. So add your text, add whatever you want. Maybe you want to add some smiley faces, anything, your name, whatever it might be. The important thing is anything that you want to fill in from Autocrat needs to have those alligator brackets around it. So you can see here, I have first, I have last. Okay, so I can even put in first name, put in last name, whatever it might be. Include the space in between the alligator brackets because you don't want their first and last name butting up together. So make sure you include that as well. I am making up the tag. Okay, so I'm making up what I want it to be. So visually for me, I know that's first name and last name. So what's the next step for this? Have a spreadsheet. This spreadsheet is not generated from a form. I just typed it in. And notice up here, I put my column headings, first name, last name, email. So, and I think Rebecca jumped on earlier, so I can just add to this. So I'm just typing in the information. So maybe it's parent information. Okay, so whatever it might be, I'm just adding. typing it in one at a time. So this time now I want to run Autocrat, but I don't have that form trigger. Okay. So let's go through this again. So I'm going to go to my add-ons. I'm going to go to Autocrat and I'm going to launch. So same steps. So I'm going to start my new job and I'm going to name it 2021 awards. I need to select my template. So this is where I am going to choose my Google slide. So remember before I said you can only do docs, now slides will show up as well. So I can pick from either of those two. Okay, so I'm going to pick my all around award. It's going to populate here. And see, it's fetching the tabs from that template that it's looking at. So I picked first name, I picked last name. So you can have it say whatever you want, but step number 3 is the important part. You need to make sure that they're mapped together. So here's the difference between coming from a form and coming from just a plain spreadsheet. It doesn't know where to look. So you might have 20 sheets down at the bottom. You might have 2, you might only have the original 1, but it doesn't know which one you want to pull from. So you have to click to say, what tab do you want it to look at? And notice it's telling me that they're unmapped. But watch what happens when I pick sheet 1. It's looking at my column headings and hey, I matched those up. They worked. First is linked to first, last is mapped to last. So I'm going to move on. What do I want this called? So again, I can put my tags in here. Oops. Okay. What's my outcome going to be? Okay, so notice it doesn't say Google Docs this time. Notice it says Google Slides. So I'd be able to open it in Google Slides and modify if I wanted to. But I'm giving you guys a certificate. Once it's created, I don't want to be able to modify it. I just want it to be published and out there. So I'm going to make it a PDF. And then I'm going to say next. Where do I want this to go? Again, I say delete first and then choose your folder. So I'm going to delete this because if you don't delete it first, you can have 2. So let me go backwards. I'm not going to delete it. I didn't listen to what Shelly said, so I'm just going to add a folder. And yes, I'm putting it in my MadLibs folder. But notice both of them are there. So it's going to go in my drive and in my MadLibs folder, and I don't want that. So again, I suggest delete my drive first, then choose your folder. I'm going to go to next. Step number 6 is optional. Step number 7 is optional. On to 8, I want to email this to all of you. So it's going to come across as a PDF. And notice because I picked PDF on the last one, it makes it a PDF here as well. Do I want my collaborators to be able to reshare this? Yes or no? And do I want this to come from a generic no reply address? So right now it would come from me, sbaltic@gapps.tccsa.net. If I say yes, it's just going to say no reply. I think it's at google.com. Okay. So who do I want this to go to? So I have to use my tags in order to get my email addresses. Okay, so right here is email. So I'm gonna, email. Okay, if I want to BCC to anybody, and then what is going to be your subject line? And then I can say, okay. I'm going to go to next. Do I have a form trigger? I'm going to say no. I don't need it to run every hour. I don't have the form that it's going to trigger it. So I don't have a trigger at all. I'm going to leave them both no. So then I'm going to say save. So you're going to see it's going to populate everything. It's going to populate those extra columns. It's going to do everything except it's not going to generate the certificates. Okay. So how do I get the certificates to run? So I don't have a trigger. It's not going to run every hour. It's not going to run every day. The form's not submitting. So I have to come in manually and run this job. So I'm just going to click on the little play symbol in order for it to run. So once I click it, it is now generating all of my documents. And you guys should be getting an email, whatever email that you guys gave here, you will be getting an email with a certificate that is PDF. So not only do I get a copy, it's going to take a while. There it goes. So it's going slowly. And you can see here, 1 of 9 documents has been merged. So as I'm going here, Dawn was first. So here's her award. Okay, so it's going to give me a PDF of it as well as email you one. And you can see, I can't close out of the screen. You can see here that it's being sent to those email addresses. And it's telling me that it's been manually run. I can always click on any of my links here to see the PDF as well, or I can go into my drive. So we'll give this a minute to run. Is there any questions as this is running?
So Shelley, if we're working with elementary school students who can't get an email, how is it shared to them? Is it shared to them in their drive? Or is there another way to share it with them? Or is there a way?
Well, I think that's where you might have to share with them individually, or it populates here for you, but not for them.
Okay.
So I need to do a little testing to see. I think we still have some accounts that don't receive email. I want to see if you can still share it without having an email in there. So what step is that? 8, where you have to say share and how you want it to share. I don't know if you leave that blank, if it knows to share it with the email address. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
So
okay.
I think what it's doing is looking at that email address to be able to email and share. But I guess I need to test it to see if we leave the email. Oh, I'd have to put it in the email. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll get back to you on that one.
Okay, I
Because
just was curious.
I think it's an all or nothing. Either you can share an email or it just populates in your drive folder.
Okay.
But I'll let you know if I find anything different, I will let you know.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Yes, because I know that's going to affect a lot of people with littles, especially like stories like this. The kids are going to want to read their own stories. Well, you don't want to have to go through your drive and share every single one with them. So maybe we can share a folder that's view only or something like that. So you're going to have to kind of figure out what's best for your classroom. But like I said, I'll look at that if there's a way to share without actually emailing as well. So it is done. It completed everything. It comes back to the Autocrat screen. So I know that it's been ran. I know that it's been emailed. So it has the little email symbol over here, and then I can close out. Okay. If I add more, I can just add more and then I would run back through. I don't have to go through all the steps again. So if here, let me add myself. Okay, so I need to run through it again. Go to add-ons, Autocrat, and launch. I don't have to go through all 9 steps. I just have to click on the play button. Maybe. There it is. So I just click on play. It's going to run. It's going to look, anyone that is blank, it's going to say, hey, we need to merge this one. And it's going to run through just that one. It's not going to resend any of these. Now, for example, Tara didn't receive hers. I can wipe out this column, or I should say columns, and this basically this row. I'm going to leave this information here, but I want to erase everything that was populated by Autocrat, and then I would rerun it and it would regenerate for Tara. So I would have to erase all of this. Okay. Questions?